My doctor literally begged me to stop. Picture this. I'm sitting in Dr. Morrison's office, prostate enlarged to twice normal size, waking up 6 times every night, and he's pleading with me to quit the one thing I thought was saving my life. The habit I'm about to share with you is something 90% of men with prostate problems do religiously, thinking they're helping themselves. I was one of them, and it nearly destroyed my prostate completely. What happened next changed everything, and I mean everything, about my prostate health in just 3 weeks. If you're doing what I was doing, you need to stop today. Let me tell you exactly why your doctor probably won't tell you this, and what I discovered that reversed 4 years of declining prostate function in less than a month. My name is Thomas Whitfield. 4 years ago, at 61, I received the diagnosis that stops every man cold: enlarged prostate, possible cancer. The urologist wanted immediate surgery. I refused, and thank God I did, because what I learned about this one habit changed my entire understanding of prostate health. The habit? I was drinking massive amounts of water and forcing myself to urinate every 30 minutes, thinking I was flushing toxins and keeping everything clean. Sound familiar? Most men do exactly this when they start having prostate issues. We panic and think more water equals better health. But here's what no one tells you about this seemingly innocent habit. Every time you force urination when your bladder isn't naturally full, you're creating pressure against an already inflamed prostate. Think of your prostate like a sponge that's been squeezed too tight. When you force urine through those swollen tissues repeatedly, you're essentially sandblasting an open wound. The more I tried to help myself with excessive hydration and forced urination, the worse my symptoms became. My stream got weaker every week. The burning sensation increased. The nighttime wake-ups went from 3 times to 6 times to 8 times per night. I was exhausted, scared, and doing the exact opposite of what my prostate needed to heal. Let me paint the picture of where I was before I understood this. Every morning I'd chug 2 full glasses of water immediately upon waking, thinking I was jump-starting my kidney function. Throughout the day I'd force myself to drink water even when I wasn't thirsty, aiming for those famous 8 glasses everyone talks about. But here's the kicker. Every 20 to 30 minutes, whether I felt the urge or not, I'd head to the bathroom and strain to empty my bladder completely. I thought I was being proactive. I thought I was preventing urinary tract infections. I thought I was keeping everything flowing smoothly. Instead, I was creating a cycle of chronic inflammation that was slowly destroying my prostate function. The constant pressure, the forced contractions, the repeated irritation. It was like picking at a scab that was trying to heal. My prostate was desperately attempting to recover from years of DHT buildup and environmental toxin exposure, but I kept interrupting that healing process every 30 minutes with forced urination. The turning point came during what I now call my rock bottom appointment with Dr. Morrison. My PSA had jumped from 6.2 to 8.7 in just 6 months. My prostate volume had increased by 40%. The digital rectal exam showed significant hardening in the left lobe. Dr. Morrison looked at me across his desk and said something I'll never forget. "Thomas, you're one of the most compliant patients I've ever had. You follow every piece of advice perfectly. You drink your water. You urinate regularly. You take your supplements. You exercise. But you're getting worse, not better. There's something we're missing here." That's when I started describing my daily routine in detail. The moment I mentioned my forced urination schedule and excessive water intake, his face changed completely. He actually put his head in his hands and said, "Thomas, please, I'm begging you, stop forcing yourself to urinate. Stop chugging water when you're not thirsty. You're creating more inflammation than any infection ever could." I was stunned. Everything I'd read online said drink more water, empty your bladder frequently, don't hold urine. But Dr. Morrison explained something that completely shifted my understanding of prostate physiology. When your prostate is inflamed, forced urination creates what's called pressure rebound inflammation. Every time you strain to push urine through swollen prostate tissue, you're causing micro tears in the urethra and creating scar tissue buildup. The excess water intake was making it worse because my kidneys were producing more urine than my inflamed prostate could comfortably process. I was essentially waterlogging an already overwhelmed system. Think about it this way. If you had a severely sprained ankle, would you force yourself to walk on it every 20 minutes? Of course not. You'd rest it, reduce the pressure, let the inflammation subside. But that's exactly what I was doing to my prostate, forcing function when it needed rest and recovery time. Now, I need to be clear about something important here. I'm not a doctor. I'm a guy who lived through this nightmare and found a way out. My credibility comes from 4 years of trial and error, thousands of hours researching prostate health, and the hard-won knowledge that comes from refusing surgery and healing naturally instead. I've connected with hundreds of men in online communities, shared stories with support groups, and dove deep into every piece of research I could find on WebMD, Healthline, and medical journals. What I'm sharing isn't medical advice. It's real-world experience from someone who walked this path and came out the other side with a healthy, functioning prostate. When I was diagnosed, the standard protocol was immediate intervention. Biopsy, surgery, radiation, the whole aggressive treatment pipeline. But something in my gut told me to explore other options first. I spent months researching, connecting with other survivors, and learning about the relationship between inflammation, lifestyle factors, and prostate healing. The information I'm sharing comes from that journey, the mistakes I made, the breakthroughs I discovered, and the protocols that actually worked when conventional wisdom failed me. So when Dr. Morrison begged me to stop my forced urination habit, I listened. But I also wanted to understand the mechanism behind why this was so damaging and what I should do instead. That's when I discovered the concept of natural voiding rhythm and pressure-free healing. Your prostate has a natural inflammation cycle that operates on circadian rhythms, just like your sleep cycle. During certain hours of the day, particularly early morning and late evening, your prostate tissue is in active repair mode. When you force urination during these healing windows, you interrupt cellular regeneration and trigger inflammatory cascades that can last for hours. The solution isn't complicated, but it requires patience and trust in your body's natural wisdom. Instead of forcing urination every 30 minutes, I learned to wait for genuine urge signals. Instead of chugging water on a schedule, I started drinking small amounts throughout the day, only when actually thirsty. This meant my bladder would naturally fill to comfortable capacity, creating gentle pressure that actually helps massage the prostate in a healing way, rather than the violent pressure spikes of forced emptying. The first week was challenging because I'd conditioned myself to panic if I didn't urinate frequently, but I tracked everything carefully. Within 3 days, the burning sensation during urination decreased by about 60%. By day 7, my nighttime wake-ups dropped from 6 per night to 3. By day 14, my urinary stream had noticeably strengthened. And by week 3, I was sleeping through the night for the first time in 2 years. The mechanism behind this improvement involves something called pressure homeostasis. When you allow your bladder to fill naturally and empty completely without forcing, you create optimal pressure dynamics around the prostate. Natural bladder filling provides gentle, consistent pressure that encourages healthy blood flow through prostate tissue. Natural emptying allows complete relaxation of the smooth muscle surrounding the urethra, reducing inflammation and promoting healing. One tool that really helped me stay consistent with this new approach was tracking my voiding patterns and symptoms daily. There's actually an app I found that's designed specifically for this kind of monitoring. I'll leave the link in the pinned comment if you want to check it out. It helped me see patterns I would have missed otherwise, like how my symptoms correlated with stress levels, sleep quality, and dietary choices. The app made it easy to stay accountable to the new protocol without obsessing over every bathroom trip. But here's what really convinced me this approach was working: the objective measurements. After 6 weeks of natural voiding rhythm and proper hydration timing, I went back for follow-up tests. My PSA had dropped from 8.7 to 6.1. The prostate volume had decreased by 25%. Most importantly, the hardening in the left lobe that had Dr. Morrison so concerned was completely gone. The ultrasound showed normal tissue density throughout the entire prostate. Dr. Morrison was amazed, but he wasn't surprised. He told me he'd seen similar results in other patients who stopped the forced urination habit. But most men are too scared to trust their body's natural signals. We're so conditioned to think more action equals better results that we can't accept that sometimes healing requires doing less, not more. What I learned about prostate inflammation changed my entire approach to men's health. Chronic inflammation isn't just about diet and exercise. It's about giving damaged tissue the right environment to regenerate. Forced urination creates what researchers call mechanical irritation stress, which triggers inflammatory cytokines that can persist for 8 to 12 hours after each episode. When you're forcing urination every 30 minutes, you're essentially keeping your prostate in a constant state of inflammatory alert. The tissue never gets a chance to complete its natural healing cycle. But when you switch to natural voiding rhythm, you allow inflammation to resolve completely between bathroom visits. This creates windows of deep healing that compound over time, leading to dramatic improvements in symptoms and tissue health. Now let me share some specific practical strategies that made this transition easier and more effective. First, the hydration timing protocol that replaced my old water chugging habit. Instead of drinking large amounts at scheduled times, I started with small sips throughout the day, paying attention to thirst cues. Morning hydration was limited to 1 normal-sized glass upon waking, then small amounts every hour based on actual thirst. I completely stopped drinking fluids after 7 p.m. to reduce nighttime pressure on my prostate during peak healing hours. Second, the natural urge recognition technique. This took practice because I'd trained myself to ignore natural signals in favor of arbitrary timing. I started by setting a gentle reminder every hour to check in with my body and assess whether I actually felt urge pressure or was just following old habits. Real urge feels like gentle pressure in the lower abdomen, not anxiety about bathroom timing. When genuine urge occurred, I'd go immediately, no delaying, but also no forcing if the urge wasn't there. Third, the complete emptying technique that doesn't involve forcing or straining. When you do feel natural urge and head to the bathroom, take your time. Allow the initial flow to happen naturally, then pause for 30 seconds to let any remaining urine settle into the bladder neck. Often there's a second, smaller flow that empties the bladder completely without any effort or pressure. This technique ensures complete emptying while respecting the inflamed tissue around your prostate. The results speak for themselves, but let me give you the exact timeline so you know what to expect. Days 1 to 3, anxiety about not urinating on schedule, but burning sensation starts decreasing. Days 4 to 7, natural urge signals become more reliable. Nighttime wake-ups begin reducing. Days 8 to 14, urinary stream strength noticeably improves. Daytime frequency normalizes. Days 15 to 21, sleep quality dramatically improves. Prostate pressure sensations fade. Week 4 and beyond, continued improvement in all symptoms. Energy levels return to normal. This isn't just my story. I've connected with dozens of men who discovered the same thing, that forced urination was sabotaging their prostate healing. Robert, a 58-year-old engineer from Texas, saw his PSA drop from 9.2 to 4.8 in 8 weeks using this approach. Michael, a retired teacher from Ohio, eliminated his nighttime wake-ups completely in just 5 weeks. These aren't isolated cases. There's a growing community of men who've discovered that sometimes the most healing thing you can do is stop trying so hard to heal. If you're currently stuck in the forced urination cycle like I was, the transition might feel scary at first. Your mind will tell you that not emptying your bladder every 30 minutes is dangerous. You might worry about infections or backup. But remember, your body has sophisticated mechanisms for bladder and prostate health that have been operating successfully for millions of years of human evolution. Trust those mechanisms. Work with your natural rhythms instead of fighting against them. The habit that nearly destroyed my prostate, forced urination and excessive water intake, is something most men never question because it seems so obviously healthy. But when tissue is inflamed and trying to heal, sometimes the most loving thing you can do is give it space and time to recover naturally. My prostate went from enlarged and hardened to normal size and healthy tissue density in less than 2 months, simply by stopping the one habit my doctor begged me to quit. If my story resonates with you, if you're tired of symptoms getting worse despite doing everything you think is right, consider that maybe you're doing too much rather than too little. Sometimes healing happens not when we force it, but when we finally get out of our own way. Subscribe if you want to hear more about my journey back to prostate health. I share everything I learn about natural healing and what actually works versus what just sounds like it should work. And remember, that tracking app I mentioned that helped me stay consistent with natural voiding rhythm is linked in the pinned comment below.